30 guests, 3 tiers of cake, pink balloons swaying in the June heat. And my mother lifting her champagne glass to toast my younger sister for finally proving what this family had been whispering about me for 6 years. That I was the bad choice. That I was the cautionary tale. That my son and I were the warning her grandchild would grow up never becoming. I sat in the folding chair they had pushed against the hedge. I kept my face still. I had trained that face for 34 years, and the woman next to me clapped so hard her bracelet rattled against her champagne flute. Then my 8-year-old son, Devin, stood up from the hallway chair they had hidden him in. His dinosaur tie was crooked. His feet did not touch the ground. And he asked one quiet question that turned every laughing mouth in that backyard into a held breath. I am Ingrid. I am 34. I am a forensic accountant. And 6 weeks before that shower, I had opened 3 PDF files at 11 at night, thinking I was doing a favor for my brother-in-law. Those PDFs were the reason my son stood up. Those PDFs were the reason a 3-tier cake never got cut. And by the end of this story, you are going to understand why the loudest person in a room is almost never the one telling the truth. Stay with me, because what you think this story is about in the first 10 minutes is not what it becomes. Drop a comment and tell me where you are watching from. Hit subscribe so the algorithm finishes this story with you. And if a family ever made you small while hiding their own collapse behind matching outfits, this one is for you. 6 years ago, my husband left a sticky note on the kitchen counter. Not a letter, not a conversation, 4 words in blue pen: I cannot do this. His wedding ring sat next to the toaster like a coin someone forgot to pick up. Devin was too. He kept walking to the front door for a week after, pressing his small face against the glass, waiting for a man who was never coming back. I kept pulling him gently away. I kept making a sound I told myself was a laugh. I had half a degree in accounting and $340 in my checking account, so I finished the degree at night. I passed the CPA exam with Devin sleeping on a folded blanket under my desk because I could not afford a sitter past 9. By 29, I had opened my own forensic accounting practice above a dry cleaner that always smelled like chemical lavender. By 34, I had 11 steady clients, a mortgage 3 years ahead of schedule, and a son who could name every dinosaur that ever lived. None of that counted. To my mother, Carol, I was still the daughter who could not keep a man. To my sister, Nia, I was the rough draft she had learned from. Every Sunday at 4, my mother called, and the call always started with Nia. Nia's new kitchen tile, Nia's promotion at the dental office, Nia's husband Mike, and the trip they took to Hilton Head. If I mentioned Devin made honor roll, she would say that's nice and pivot back to the real headline. Your sister figured it out, Ingrid. Like life was a combination lock, and I had been spinning the dial wrong for a decade. One Easter, Devin knocked a glass off the table. My mother looked at me while she cleaned it up, and she said the sentence she had been saving for years. Your sister made smarter choices, Ingrid. That is all. That is all. Like it was weather. Like it was just the way temperatures worked. Devin was 4. He pressed his small fist into my sleeve. He learned in that kitchen what I had spent my whole life refusing to learn. He learned when a room had turned against us. I should have said something that day. I did not. Carrying things was what I did. Carrying things was my weakness. I was very, very good at it. And 6 weeks before Nia's baby shower, the carrying was about to become impossible. Mike was the reason Nia's life looked the way it did. 36, broad-shouldered. Regional sales for a building supply company. He brought my mother flowers on her birthday. He grilled steaks at every cookout. He called her Mom S with a wink, and the whole family treated him like a trophy Nia had earned for doing life correctly. Nobody questioned the business trips. Mike traveled every other weekend. Territory visits, he called them. Sometimes he left Thursday and came back Monday morning looking tired and smelling like a different soap. Nobody blinked. Nobody is that good. I do numbers for a living. I know when something does not add up. But questioning Mike meant questioning Nia. And questioning Nia meant another Sunday call about choices, so I pushed it down. the way I pushed down everything else. Then came the small things, the baseball game Mike promised Devin and never showed up for. The school play where Devin saved him a seat, and the seat stayed empty for 45 minutes before my son stopped looking at the door. When Mike called the next day with an excuse about a flat tire in Reedsville, Devin said it's okay in a voice so practiced it broke something in my chest. An 8-year-old should not have a practiced voice for forgiving men who disappear, but the moment that everything shifted was a Tuesday afternoon 5 weeks before the shower. Mike called me. Not Nia, not my mother's, me. He needed a favor. Nia had a prenatal appointment. My mother was going with her. Mike offered to pick Devin up from school and take him out for the afternoon so I could meet a client deadline. Something twitched in my gut the way a number twitches on a spreadsheet right before you find the error. But Devin's face lit up. Uncle Mike said we would get milkshakes, Mom. I said yes. I will spend the rest of my life thinking about that yes. They were gone 4 hours. When Mike's truck pulled into my driveway at 6, Devin hopped out happy and sticky-faced, clutching a small paper bag. Uncle Mike got me a toy. I thanked Mike. I waved. I watched him back out of the driveway. Then I looked in the bag, a race car. Red, small. The packaging said ages 2 to 4. Devin was 8. I turned it over slowly. I asked him where it came from. He shrugged. He grabbed 2 from the store, 1 for me and 1 for he stopped. 1 for who, Dev? He bit his lip. I was not supposed to say, I let it go. I should not have, but I let it go. Later that night, I was moving laundry from the seat of Mike's truck where he had asked me to grab Devin's jacket. A crumpled receipt fell out of the pocket onto my kitchen counter. Gas station. Fuel. A bag of animal crackers, 1 juice box. The station was in Marbleton. Marbleton was 40 minutes east, past the county line. Nowhere near Mike's sales territory. Nowhere near anywhere, Devin would need a milkshake. I smoothed the receipt under the kitchen light the way I smooth a column that will not reconcile. Devin did not have a little brother. So whose race car was that? 3 weeks before the shower, I started knitting a blanket. Pale yellow yarn, soft enough to press against a newborn's cheek. I worked on it after Devin went to bed sitting, cross-legged on the couch, with the TV muted, pulling yarn through loops, until my fingers ached. Each row was a sentence I could not say out loud. I love my sister. I want her baby to be warm. I want to show up to that shower and have someone look at what I made and see me. Not the single mom, not the rough draft, not the bad choice, just me. The gift table would be stacked with $200 strollers and cashmere sleep sacks from registries I could not afford. My blanket would sit there like a potluck dish at a catered dinner. I kept knitting anyway, because the alternative was showing up empty-handed and giving my mother one more thing to measure me against. I finished the last knot at midnight on a Tuesday. 4 days later, Mike texted me, "Hey Ingrid, quick favor, trying to refinance the house and the bank wants organized statements. You are the numbers person. Could you glance at these for me?" He sent 3 PDFs. I should have said no. I opened them at 11 at night with a mug of cold coffee and Devin's math homework still spread across the table. The statements were ordinary at first. Groceries, gas, a Costco membership, Nia's prenatal copays. Then I saw it. A recurring auto-pay, $1,450 per month to a property management company in Marbleton. I scrolled, another charge, $620 per month to something called Bright Horizons Children's Center, also in Marbleton, a daycare. Nia and Mike did not have a child yet. Their baby was not due for 2 more months. I sat with those numbers for a long time. The coffee went from cold to room temperature to something I forgot was there. There are always explanations when you are looking at numbers you do not want to understand. I closed the laptop. I did not sleep. The next morning, I ran them again. The Marbleton rent had been active for 37 months, the daycare for 31. Both started before Nia and Mike's wedding. I cross-referenced the payment dates with Mike's territory visits. Every month, like clockwork, Mike made a deposit into a separate savings account the day before the rent auto-drafted. He was funding a second household on a schedule more reliable than his mortgage. My hands were shaking, and I was angry at them for shaking because I am a woman who reads fraud reports for a living. I have caught embezzlement schemes. I have flagged phantom vendors. Numbers do not scare me, but these numbers had my sister's name on them, and her baby growing inside her, and a holiday table I still sat at every December even though nobody saved me a good chair. I told myself there was an explanation. I told myself I would ask Mike casually after the shower. I filed the statements in a folder on my desktop labeled Mike Refinance. I closed it. But 3 days before the shower, Devin came home from a guy's day with Mike quieter than usual. He sat on his bed and pulled off his sneakers one at a time. Slow. Like he was thinking hard about something. "Mom, can I tell you something? Always, Uncle Mike took me to a house, not his house. A different one. There was a lady with red hair and a little boy. The boy's name is Cody. He is really small, like maybe 3. He showed me his toy trucks. He has a lot of trucks." My spine went cold straight up the center. Who is the lady Dev? Uncle Mike called her Sarah. She made us sandwiches. He looked up at me with those careful eyes. Uncle Mike said it is a surprise. He said do not tell anyone, especially Aunt Nia. He said it is like a birthday present. You do not talk about it before the day. An 8-year-old can hold a surprise. A surprise ends in a smile. A secret ends in a room that goes silent. I sat on the edge of his bed and put my arm around him and said the only thing I could think of. "Thank you for telling me, Dev. You did not do anything wrong." The next morning I found the drawing. I was not looking for it. I was emptying his backpack to wash it. Between a crumpled permission slip and a half-eaten granola bar, there was a folded piece of construction paper. 2 houses. The one on the left had a triangle roof and green grass, and a stick figure labeled Aunt Nia with a round belly. The one on the right was smaller. 3 figures in front of it. A tall man labeled Daddy Mike. A woman with red scribbles for hair labeled Aunt Sarah. A tiny boy labeled Cody. Between the 2 houses, my son had drawn a road with a little car on it. The car had a smile. I sat down on the kitchen floor with the paper in my hands. My son had drawn the truth, and he did not even know it was the truth. I turned the paper over. On the back in his careful block letters was an address, just a street name and a number. The way a kid copies what he sees on a mailbox, 412 Elm, Marbleton. That night after he fell asleep, I pulled up the county assessor records. I typed in 412 Elm. The property came back as a 2-bedroom rental unit leased to a Michael and Sarah Dunning since April 3 years ago. Michael Dunning. Same middle and last combination as the bank statements I had reviewed. The lease was co-signed, utilities in both names. Devin had already told me the rest. A woman named Sarah, a boy named Cody. Age 3, trucks. Cody was 3. Nia and Mike got married 3.5 years ago, which meant Mike had fathered a child with another woman either just before or just after his wedding. He had been paying rent on a second home, paying for a second child's daycare. Living a second life in a town, 40 minutes from the one where my sister was painting a nursery sage green and posting Instagram photos of tiny shoes. If a family member ever made you feel small while hiding their own collapse, you already know how this story should end. But you do not know how it actually ends. Because 2 days before the shower I gave Mike a choice, and he picked the wrong one. Hit subscribe before the next part, because what happens next changed everything in that backyard. I texted Mike. "We need to talk about Marbleton." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again, then, "I do not know what you think you know, Ingrid." I typed back, "I know about the lease, I know about the daycare. I know about Cody." This time the dots did not dance. He called me. His voice was low and tight. The way a man sounds when he is choosing between anger and negotiation. "You went through my statements. You asked me to look at the mic." Silence. 5 seconds. 10. Then he picked the door he was always going to pick. "Stay out of my marriage, Ingrid. This is none of your business. People already know what you are. Bitter, jealous, alone. If you say one word to Nia, I will make sure the whole family believes it is revenge." I held the phone against my ear and looked at Devin's drawing still pinned to my refrigerator with a dinosaur magnet. I am not telling anyone at the shower. I am asking you to tell Nia yourself before the baby. That is not going to happen. Then I will tell her after, privately. She deserves to know. She deserves a husband who is there. And that is what I am. He hung up. I had a choice in that moment. Blow it all up, or protect the people who had hurt me for 34 years. I chose quiet. You might have chosen different. Tell me below, because for the next 48 hours Mike smiled for baby shower photos. He posted one that night, Nia kissing his cheek. Caption, almost time, 32,000 hearts. I went to bed with my phone face down. I had no idea my 8-year-old son was about to make the choice for me. Saturday, 8 in the morning. My mother's backyard looked like a page from a magazine I could not afford to subscribe to. A balloon arch in blush and gold framed the patio door. White folding chairs lined up in perfect rows, each one tied with a ribbon that probably cost more than my lunch budget. A 3-tier cake sat on a pedestal table. Fondant roses. Baby Dunning in cursive, a mimosa bar, a photo booth with props, a clothesline of tiny onesies pinned with wooden clips. Devin and I pulled into the driveway at 7:58. I wore the navy dress with pockets. Devin wore his dinosaur tie. He carried the blanket wrapped in tissue tucked under his arm like a treasure. My mother met us at the side gate. She did not say hello. She pointed at the stack of folding chairs against the garage wall. Those need to go in the backyard. 5 rows of 6. Make sure the ribbons face front. Good morning, Mom. She looked at Devin. He can sit in the hallway. There is a folding chair by the coat rack. My son, her grandson, assigned to a hallway chair like an afterthought. I knelt in front of Devin and straightened his tie. You are going to sit with me, quiet enough that my mother did not hear. He nodded. Nia arrived at 9:30 in a white sundress, glowing one hand on her belly, Mike beside her with his arm around her waist. He saw me across the yard. His jaw tightened for half a second. Then the grin came back. Practiced. Perfect. 30 guests would arrive in an hour. None of them knew what I knew. The gift table was a monument, a bugaboo stroller still in plastic. A cashmere sleep sack, a white noise machine that cost more than my first car payment, a crystal picture frame engraved baby's first year. I set my gift at the end of the row. It looked exactly how I knew it would look. Small, soft, wrapped in tissue paper that was slightly wrinkled from Devin carrying it under his arm. Nia worked the crowd for an hour. When she finally made it to the gift table, she opened the big ones first. Each box got a squeal, a held-up display, a round of applause. Then she reached mine. She pulled the tissue paper back and held up the pale yellow blanket between 2 fingers like she was checking a piece of fabric at a clearance sale. Oh, she tilted her head. Homemade. That's so you, Ingrid. She set it on the chair behind her, not on the display table with the other gifts, not in her lap, on the chair behind her, like a napkin she would deal with later. 2 women next to me exchanged a glance. One pressed her lips together. I felt Devin's hand find mine under the table and squeeze. 3 weeks of midnight stitches. Sat crumpled on a folding chair. I let her, for now. I squeezed Devin's hand back and kept my face the way I had trained it to be. Still. Then the digs started during the mimosa round. Nia's friend Kelsey leaned across the table and smiled at me with all her teeth. So Ingrid, still single, anyone on the horizon. Before I could answer, my mother cut in from the kitchen doorway. Ingrid is focusing on Devin. That is enough for her. Mike's cousin tilted her champagne glass toward Nia and Mike. You two are just the cutest. Nia, you really found a good one. Mike's phone buzzed in his pocket. He did not check it, but I saw his hand drift toward it and stop. Some of us just attract the right kind of man, Ingrid. It is not luck. That was my mother's friend Diane. She patted my arm when she said it like she was consoling me at a funeral I was attending for my own life. Devin sat beside me in a chair that was too tall for him. His feet dangled 6 inches off the grass. He had been quiet the whole time, watching the adults with that careful cataloging look he gets when he is processing something. A woman I did not know cooed at Nia's belly. Your baby is going to have the best life. 2 parents, a beautiful home, everything. She looked at me when she said everything. Like I was the counterexample. Devin tugged my sleeve. "Mom, can we go soon?" "Not yet, honey, they keep talking about us." He was 8, he could hear it all. At 2 o'clock, my mother stood up with a glass of champagne and clinked it with a fork. The yard went quiet. 30 faces turned toward her. I want to make a toast. To my beautiful daughter, Nia. And to Mike, who gave her everything a mother could hope for. A real home. A real partnership. A complete family. She paused on complete and let it sit. I felt the word land on me like a hand pressing my shoulder down. Complete as opposed to what? Incomplete. Broken. Me, Nia, sweetheart, you did it the right way. You built something strong. Something lasting, and now you are bringing a baby into a family that is whole. She lifted her glass. To the Dunnings, to the Dunnings. 30 voices echoed. Glasses clinked. Mike kissed Nia's temple. His lips pressed there exactly 3 seconds. I counted, because I count things, because that is what I do when I cannot control anything else. 3 seconds of performance. Then Kelsey organized a game. Pink index cards, guess the baby's birthday. Mike's phone buzzed again. He pulled it out, read something, typed something back. Quick thumbs. I watched his face shift for half a second. A tightening around the eyes, the mouth pressing flat, before he pocketed it and put his arm back around Nia. Devin leaned over and whispered. "Uncle Mike looks worried, Mom. SHHH baby." But he does. Somewhere in my cardigan pocket, folded next to my car keys, was a drawing of 2 houses and a car with a smile. And the word complete was about to become the shortest joke in the room. It happened during the advice round. Someone had set up a card station where guests wrote parenting tips on pink index cards. Kelsey read one aloud. "Sleep when the baby sleeps." The yard laughed. Then she picked up another card. "Nia, what is the one thing you are most excited about?" "Being a mom," Nia grinned. She rubbed her belly. She looked at me, not at the crowd, not at Kelsey, at me, and I watched the line form on her lips before she said it. Honestly. "I am just grateful my baby is going to have a complete home. 2 parents. A father who shows up every single day." She paused. The yard was quiet. Then she tilted her head, still looking at me, and her grin sharpened. "At least my baby will have a father." The laugh that rolled through the yard was instant. Not all 30 people, but enough. 15, maybe 20. Some covered their mouths, some did not bother. 2 of Nia's friends actually clapped. Clapped, palms hitting palms. The same sound you make when a comedian lands a punchline. Except the punchline was 6 years of my life, and the comedian was my sister. And the stage was a backyard where I had set up the chairs that morning. Mike stared at the grass. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He ignored it. My mother pressed her lips together and did not say a word to stop it. She sat in her cushioned chair, the good chair, the one with the armrests. And she let the laughter happen the way a judge lets a verdict stand. Devin's hand found mine again under the table. His grip was so tight his knuckles turned white. I could feel the bones of his fingers pressing into my palm. 8 years old, and he was holding me together. The clapping is what I remember, not the words, the clapping. 20 adults applauding my sister for using my worst year as her best joke, and my son's hand in mine, holding on like he was afraid the sound would carry me away. My mother waited for the laughter to thin. Then she leaned forward in her chair and she said it. Not loud. She did not need to be loud. My mother's voice carries when it is quiet the same way a knife cuts deeper when it is slow. Some women just make bad choices. She was not looking at Nia. She was looking at me. 6 words. Delivered the way she delivers everything. Like weather, like something you cannot argue with because it is already true. A few women nodded. Diane murmured, "That's right." Devin pulled my sleeve. "Mom." His voice was small and shaky. "Mom, can I sit down and be quiet, sweetheart?" That was my mother, not to me, to Devin, my son, tugging my arm, trying to say something. And my mother shut him down from 4 feet away without looking at him, like he was background noise, like he was part of my bad choice. I felt Devin's body stiffen next to me. I felt his fingers release my sleeve, and I felt something in me shift, not snap, not break, shift, like a foundation settling. I put my hand on his knee under the table. I breathed in through my nose and out through my mouth. I was not going to fight. I was not going to cry. I was going to stand up, collect my son, and walk out of this yard with my head level and my car keys in my pocket. I was going to leave. Then my son stood up. He did not shout. He did not cry. He stood up from his folding chair the way a kid stands up when the teacher calls his name. Straight-backed, serious, his dinosaur tie slightly crooked. The yard had been laughing 10 seconds ago. Now it was just murmuring, settling, people reaching for their champagne and their phones. Devon's voice cut through all of it, clear, steady. The voice of a child who had been told to be quiet and had decided in the way that only 8-year-olds decide things that the adults were wrong. Aunt Nia. Should I tell everyone about Uncle Mike's other family? The sound did not stop. It evaporated. 1 second there were 30 people breathing and clinking and shifting in their chairs. The next second there was nothing. I have been in conference rooms when a fraud finding is read aloud. I have watched CEOs go pale. I have seen silence that costs people their careers. I have never heard a silence like the one my son made in that backyard. Nia's smile did not fall. It froze, like someone had paused a video 1 frame before the picture breaks apart. Mike was standing by the mimosa bar. His hand was around a glass. The glass did not move. Nothing moved. Devon looked around the yard the way he looks around a classroom when he has answered a question and is not sure if he got it right. Uncle Mike has another house. Quieter now. Talking to Nia but loud enough for the front row to hear, with Aunt Sarah and a boy named Cody. He is 3. He showed me his trucks, 30 people, 30 faces, every single one turning. Not toward Devon, not toward Nia, toward Mike, whose hand was still on the glass, Mike, whose face had gone the color of the fondant on the cake, Mike, who had 2 days to tell the truth and spent them posting photos with 32,000 hearts. Nia laughed. It was the worst laugh I have ever heard. High, thin, cracking at the edges like plaster before it falls. What is he talking about? She looked at me, not at Mike. Ingrid, what did you tell him? I did not answer. I did not need to. Mike answered for all of us by moving. He set the glass down too hard. Champagne sloshed over the rim. He took a step toward Devon, and then he stopped, because 30 people were watching. And a man who steps toward a child in front of witnesses knows how that looks. He is confused, Mike said. His voice was too loud. Kids make things up. He is 8. He heard something on TV. I did not hear it on TV. Devon's voice was calm, calmer than Mike's, calmer than any of ours. I went to the house. You took me there. Aunt Sarah made sandwiches. Mike's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Kelsey put her champagne down. Diane set her fork on the table. My mother had not moved from her chair. She was gripping the armrests with both hands. And for the first time in my life, I saw something on my mother's face I did not recognize. It might have been fear. I stayed in my seat. I kept my hand on Devon's knee. I did not speak. This is what restraint sounds like. The loudest person in the room is the one who says nothing while the truth does the work. Mike tried again. Ingrid, you put him up to this. She did not. Devon looked at his uncle the way children look at adults when the math finally does not add up. I drew a picture. It is in my backpack. 20 heads turned toward the hallway, toward the coat rack, toward the folding chair where they had sent my son to be out of the way, and the small blue backpack hanging on its arm. Innocent men do not stand up that fast. Mike was already moving toward the door. Nia got to the backpack first. She was 7 months pregnant, and she crossed that yard faster than anyone else, one hand under her belly, the other reaching for the zipper. My mother called her name. Nia did not stop. She pulled the backpack off the chair, unzipped it, and the folded construction paper fell out between a juice box and a permission slip. She opened it. 2 houses, 1 smiling car, Daddy Mike, Aunt Sarah, Cody. Nia stared at the paper. I watched her eyes move from one crayon figure to the next, and I watched the drawing do what I had never wanted it to do. Not here, not like this. It dismantled her piece by piece. The triangle roofs, the green grass, the little boy with truck-shaped scribbles in his hands, a 3-year-old named after nobody in our family, living in a town she had never heard of. on money that came from the account she thought was paying their mortgage. Mike, her voice was low, controlled, almost professional, like she was reading a diagnosis. What is this? Mike was at the patio door. He had his car keys in his hand. He had pulled them from his pocket the way guilty men reach for exits. Fast, automatic, without thinking about what it looks like. Nia. I can explain, then explain. She held the drawing up. Her hand was shaking. The paper trembled and the crayon houses shivered. Explain the drawing, Mike. Explain Cody. Explain 37 months of rent I did not know about. She had done the math, maybe not the exact number. That was mine. But she had heard Devin say 3 years. And she had counted backward past her own wedding. Mike looked at the drawing in her hand. He looked at the 30 faces staring at him from white folding chairs. He looked at the patio door behind him. He chose the door. He walked through it, grabbed his jacket off the hook, and left. The front door shut so quietly it was almost polite. His truck started 30 seconds later. Nobody followed him. Nia turned on me. I expected it. Grief needs a target and Mike had just removed himself, so the next available body was mine. You did this. Her voice was shaking now, all the control gone. You knew, and you brought your son here to humiliate me in front of everyone. You have always been jealous of me, Ingrid, always. And now you use your own kid to, I asked Mike to tell you himself. I said it quietly, not cold, not smug, the way you say a number that settles an audit. 2 days ago, I found the records doing the refinance work he asked me to do. I told him to come clean before the baby. He refused. The yard was so quiet I could hear a neighbor's sprinkler clicking 3 houses over. I was not going to say anything today. I had a plan to tell you privately after the shower. Gently. Nia's mouth trembled. So why did you not? Because my son heard what you said to me, and he is 8, and he thinks in straight lines. And he connected at least my baby will have a father with the fact that Uncle Mike already has another family. He was not trying to hurt you, Nia. He thought he was helping. Kelsey stood up. Diane looked at the grass. 2 women in the back row quietly collected their purses. Nia pressed both hands against her belly and stared at me like I was the one who had betrayed her. And maybe in her arithmetic I was. I did not argue. I did not list the receipts and the lease and the daycare invoices. I did not say what I could have said. That the woman calling me a bad choice was standing in the wreckage of a marriage she had used as a trophy. That the only person in this yard who had tried to handle it with dignity was the one she had been laughing at 20 minutes ago. I came here with a blanket, Nia, not a bomb. He built the bomb. I just stopped lying about it. Nia sank into a folding chair. Her hands were still on her belly, and her eyes were open but unfocused. Staring at the balloon arch like it was a door she could walk through and come out on the other side of an hour ago. For 1 second, just one, I saw my sister, not the woman who had mocked me. Not the woman who used my divorce as a party joke. My little sister, 29, pregnant, sitting in a backyard full of witnesses to the worst moment of her life. Realizing she was about to become the thing she had laughed at, a single mother, the moment passed, she did not apologize, she did not look at Devin. She pressed her face into her hands and made a sound that was somewhere between crying and choking. And it was real and it was human, and it did not undo a single thing she had said. My mother stood up from her chair. She looked at Nia, then at me, then at the empty space where Mike had been standing. Her mouth opened and closed twice. The woman who always had a verdict. Who had spent 30 years handing down sentences about choices and arithmetic, and which daughter got it right. Had nothing. I did not wait for her to find it. I walked to the chair behind the gift table and picked up the pale yellow blanket. I folded it carefully, the way I had folded it the night I finished the last knot. Then I turned to my mother. Mom. You can call me when you are ready to have a conversation that does not start with what I did wrong. Until then, Devin and I are going home. She did not respond. I took Devin's hand. His dinosaur tie had come loose, and one end was tucked into his shirt. I fixed it as we walked through the side gate, past the balloon arch, past the 3-tier cake that said Baby Dunning in cursive. Devin looked up at me as we reached the car. Are you mad at me, Mom? No, baby. You told the truth. That is never bad. I buckled him in. I drove us home. I did not look in the rearview mirror. Mike disappeared for 6 days, not dramatically, not a missing persons report. He just stopped answering his phone, stopped showing up at the Birch Lane house, stopped existing in the version of life Nia had built around him. On day 3, a woman named Sarah called Nia's cell. She had found Nia's number in Mike's phone records. She was calm. She was exhausted. She had a 3-year-old who kept asking where Daddy went. They talked for 47 minutes. I know this because Nia called me afterward. And her voice was flat in the way voices go flat when all the shock has been used up, and what is left is just math. He took $23,000 from our joint savings over the last year. She said it, I did not notice. How did I not notice? He routed it through a secondary checking account, small transfers, irregular timing. It is textbook. Nia was quiet for a long time. Can you help me? 3 words. I had waited 6 years to hear from my sister, not for the satisfaction, for the proof that I existed in her life as something other than a cautionary tale. Yes. That is what I do. I spent the next 2 weeks pulling apart Mike's financial records, hidden assets in a business account, unreported income from a side contracting gig, 37 months of rent and daycare that affected the marital estate. I built the file the way I build every file, methodical, documented, admissible. Nia hired a family lawyer. The lawyer looked at my file and called it the most organized set of financial discovery documents she had ever received from a non-attorney. My mother called once. She did not say she was sorry. She said I did not know about Mike. I told her the same thing I had told her at the shower. You can call me when you are ready to have a conversation that does not start with what I did wrong. She has not called back yet. I sent the blanket to Nia by mail. The baby was innocent. The baby would need it. Some women do make bad choices. I am just not the one in this room. That night after I mailed the blanket, Devin and I sat on the kitchen floor and ate ramen from mismatched bowls. The apartment was quiet. No champagne. No balloon arches. No toasts about complete families. Devin had a noodle hanging from his chin. He slurped it in with a sound that made us both laugh. Mom, yeah, Dev. Aunt Nia said your baby, meaning me, does not have a father. Is that bad? I put my bowl down. I pulled him into my side. Noodle chin and all, you have me, I have you. We are not missing anything, Dev. He thought about it, the way he thinks about everything. Slowly, carefully, turning it over like a rock he found in the yard. What about Uncle Mike's other kid, Cody? Cody has people who love him too. Even though the grown-ups messed it up. Even though the grown-ups messed it up. Mom, at the party, when everybody laughed at you, I did not think it was funny. I know, baby, that is why I said it. Not to be mean, Aunt Nia kept saying stuff about dads, and I kept thinking, but Uncle Mike already has a whole other family, so why is everybody laughing? His logic was clean. Cleaner than any courtroom argument, any financial audit, any carefully rehearsed speech I would have given over coffee. He saw a contradiction and he said it out loud. That is all. That is everything. He leaned into me, and we sat there on the linoleum with the overhead light buzzing and the fridge humming and the leftover smell of instant broth between us. 2 people. 1 kitchen floor, no audience, no ribbons, no arithmetic about what counts as complete. A family is not whole because 2 parents stand in the photo. It is whole when no one in it has to lie to be loved. My 8-year-old son taught a room full of grown-ups that in 1 sentence. And I have never been prouder to be the woman they called a bad choice. For 34 years, I let people I loved measure me by what I did not have. A husband, a complete family. A life that looked right from the outside. For 34 years, I held my face still while they laughed. And then a child in a dinosaur tie stood up in a folding chair and reminded me of something I had forgotten. The quiet woman in the corner is not weak. She is the one who sees everything. She is the one keeping the numbers. She is the one keeping the receipts. She is the one keeping the child whose hand is squeezing hers under the table. And when she finally stops carrying what was never hers to carry, the rooms that used her as a punchline go silent. If you are the one your family judged while they hid the real mess behind matching outfits and Instagram captions, I want you to hear me right now. You are not the bad choice. You are not the cautionary tale. You are not the rough draft. You are the one who saw it first. And one day, maybe at a baby shower, maybe in a kitchen, maybe in a courtroom, the truth is going to find its moment, and it is going to find that moment through you. If this story reached something in you tonight, do 3 things before you close this video. Hit that like button. It tells me you felt this one. It tells the algorithm to put this story in front of the next woman who needs to hear that her quiet is not weakness. Drop a comment below. Tell me about the relative who made you small. Tell me about the moment you finally stopped carrying it. Tell me where you are watching from tonight. I read every single one. And subscribe. Because the next story I am telling you is about a woman whose mother-in-law showed up at the hospital the day she gave birth with a suitcase and a demand that changed everything. You do not want to miss that one. There is a chair at my kitchen table for you. There is always a chair at my kitchen table for you. I will see you in the next story.